Hi, welcome back. Today's episode is about data manipulation and plotting with pandas. We will use certain datasets from the web to understand and to learn how to use pandas for data manipulation. We will discuss how to use pandas for counting values, how to group variables, how to remove observations, what's the difference with removing columns, variable conversion or formatting, and different plotting, for example, boxplot, line, scatterplots, and more. Let's go next with Python and more here now. In a previous episode, we were talking about data extraction with pandas. For that, we were using pandas, of course, and other libraries for plotting. We were talking about how to extract information from the web, and in this case, we were talking about NBA Basketball Association. In a previous episode, we were talking about how to extract data from the web, and in this case, we were talking about this table we have before us and how to clean our data, how to manipulate the extracted data. That's what we're going to discuss now. I recommend you for this to go to the previous episode and how to extract the data. Today's episode is about an introduction for data manipulation with pandas, an easy tutorial. That's where we're going to discuss the most important things now. In this case is, for example, let's observe and let's inspect our dataset. We have final as our data frame, and we have certain information I want to discuss here, and it's about we have three different columns called division, team, and capacity. Well, everybody can say, okay, I do extract it from the web, it's completely clean. Not at all. What we have learned from web scraping is that not all the data sets, all of the information is completely clean and wrangled. That's why we need pandas for data manipulation and an easy understanding of concepts too. Other thing important is we have an index. We can set certain columns as an index, or we just leave what we have. So you can see here it doesn't have a name, it's completely index, as we know. And one of the problems when we are extracting this information is you can see here we have a row where we don't have the right information. So you can see here, again, I'll show you again, we have west circumference and all that, one observation. All the cells in these observations are repeating west circumference. So we have to remove this. Other things important when we are extracting information and we want to manipulate data is about if we have any null values. You can see here we don't have any value, we have 30 teams, and we start. First of all, we're going to inspect the data set. So you can see here we call the final is our data frame. Remember how it is. We have the data frame, dot, and the function. In this case, is a characteristic of our data frame that is shape. And we have 31. Why do we have 31 if we're talking about 30 teams? Well, because we have an observation that we have to eliminate. And three columns, the index is not counted as a column, and that's why we have to eliminate that observation I was mentioning before. And data counting, how do we count values? Well, as you can see here, we have the same structure I said before, the final, that's our data set, dot division, because we're going to see a column, exactly division or a feature or a variable as you want to call it, and then for this specific variable, we want to count values. It is possible to count values for all the variables. However, we usually do this when we want a certain frequency and we don't have, for example, real values that anyone in a 10,000 data frame rows, for example. So you can see here, we just call this. We have 6 different categories because we have an eliminate with circumference. I was mentioning, in this case, we use value counts because we know that there is a certain number of categories. In this case, we have 6 categories and we want to eliminate this row. However, in the other example I was mentioning, it's not possible to count, for example, age. If we have a group from 0 to 100, we're going to have 100, for example, different categories. So it's not interested, right, to count values. For that, we just call what is the length. Okay, let's go next, talking about data counting. And now we want to eliminate this observation, removing. And for that, I'm going to present you two different ways to remove or to eliminate rows. Let's see the different way to do it. We can use drop. It's a function, as I mentioned, a data frame dot, and then a function is coming. In this case, it's drop. And as you can see here, inside drop, we have to mention Python who or what is our column to eliminate. But in this case, I want an observation to eliminate. Then how Python will know that this is an observation to eliminate? Because we are going to use axis equals 0. Axis equals 0 is going to tell Python, okay, we're going to eliminate based in a row observation. If we set this axis equal 1, Python will understand that it's a column. Why in place equal true? Because we want to save back the results in the same data set. And very important here is you can see that where is what we want to eliminate. Well, all this here. We want to eliminate everything that is in the variable division equal to west circumference. If the cell contains the information west circumference, I really want to eliminate that. How Python does know that? Because if this is true, it's going to capture from that data set the final. Remember, the final is going to have 3 different columns, and based on that, we will extract the index. Remember that we were talking about index. Well, suppose that this one is in the index number 10. Then Python will send back the number 10 index to drop, and it's going to say, okay, index is number 10 from axis equals 0. That means, okay, in the axis 0, observation number 10 in the index. And that's how we can remove this case. An observation. And the other way is just using loc. Loc is different than iloc. Remember, iloc is about the index number, that is always going to be a number, and loc could be a result based in a name. However, you can see here we have completely the opposite than before, because we have western conference different than in final division. You can see here final division, we have the data set, the variable different than. Okay, if all this is true, loc, we will keep all the observations that are equal to true, and we are going to send it back in the final. It's like in place equal true, right? So as you can see here, we have different ways to eliminate or to remove observation with pandas. One is using the function drop, and the other one is just calling the location of the observation based in a condition. Both are based in conditions, remember that. And we're going to run this back. And you can see value counts. We had west circumference, and now no more. That's how we eliminate it. Variables conversion. Why this is super important? Because remember, the final types, we have object. I mentioned before, everything that is coming from web extraction not necessarily is completely clean or wrangled, so we have to do it. In this case, we're going to format our data, and we're going to give a conversion. That means we're going to change the data type. You see, division is strings. That's perfectly fine if it's an object. Team is a string. It's completely fine. It's an object. But capacity, it is not okay to be an object, because capacity, as you can see back, it is a number. So we need this as a continuous or a discrete variable. That means containing numbers. It's something we have to change. And we were counting values in division. We had different categories in division. Oh, so it's a categorical variable. How to do this? How to change these two variables, division, capacities, data type? Okay, let's see. We are going to use this function as type. You can see here we have the final division, as the variable we want to change from the data frame final, equal to, okay, the same variable, and we call the type we want to transform back variable. Category. What does mean category? Well, remember that we had 6 different divisions. Well, for pandas in Python, we had objects only. However, now when we mention categories, for each division, Python will create a group. So we're going to be able to use groups and functions depending on groups, pandas. And float, well, you can use integer if that's what you want, or 64, for example, if you want to have a big number based in discrete values. Float in this case capacity, if we're going to use real numbers. And you can see here, and I'm going to run back this cell. As you can see, now we have division as a categorical variable and capacity as a continuous or numerical variable. Okay, let's see. What else could we do? Okay, based in one of my last statements, groupby. Okay, you can see here we have 2 or 3 different steps to do here in Python. One would be, for example, grouping by. We are able to use group by because division is a categorical variable, so it's gonna be super easy. You can see here Python creates an object called group by, and we can see that certain values in these groups by calling the function values, and it is possible to use getGroup, where you extract all the information from one group in our categorical variable. In this case, I'm showing you Atlantic and all the information we can extract from this group. We can have keys, for example, we have division, and certainly we can extract other information, for example, capacity. That means that all the information in this group for division, we can call and extract information from capacity. And of course, we have the mean. You can see here, I left the mean here. And that means that we are going to calculate the capacities mean for all categories in division. Okay, perfect. Now we have the capacities mean for all 6 divisions. You can see here we have the capacity means for all the arenas in the different divisions. That's something we can make with pandas in one single line. Group by, capacity, and mean. It is possible, of course, to group in 2 different variables, but in this case, our dataset is small, so we don't need to. Now that we can group by and calculate different statistics, we can use pandas plot. Let's see here, for example, using boxplot. Pandas is very straightforward to plot our data. So you can see here we're going to use the final as our data frame, and then plot our desired plot, in this case is boxplot, and we just mention which variable we want to use. Capacity is a numerical variable, then we can plot a boxplot. You can see here that's all we need. The other one is just a style and the title. PLT is coming from matplotlib, remember, and the final is a pandas object. So then we come here and we have our desired boxplot where the title is right here. That's how we can plot super easily with pandas. What else? Okay, given that we can plot boxplot, what else we can do? Well, we could try a plot with capacity only and our data. What Python will do if we have plot only? Let's see, what do you think? Well, because we only are passing one variable, Python will use the index or the indices for plotting our data. You can see the y-axis is capacity and the x-axis is the indices. And at the end, create a plot using lines or a line plot. It is possible to use a scatter, plot a scatter, however, we need two numerical variables for this. And then you can see I give you certain information about it. You can label it or give a title to. Now, because we were talking about groupby, what about a box plot and create certain division of different box plot in a same figure? It is possible with pandas using by. By is gonna use a categorical variable, in this case division, and is gonna calculate for each category the different statistics for creating the box plot with capacity, our variable. You can see here what is the result, and you can see it's the same code. The data frame dot box plot column, that is our column, and by, in this case, division. And there you go. You have different capacities in the different arenas in each division. Certainly, we see that there are no difference or not significant difference because we only have 5 arenas in each box plot. So it's not now to describe or to infer more than we can see. Now, what else we can do? Well, because we have the power to calculate the mean, everything we already ran before. Remember, they are final group by division. We create or we segment our data in different groups, and then we call capacity. We want to group in a variable and then extract the information from other variable, other feature, and then calculate the mean for all that. Terrific. We saw that. Now, and what about if we call plot line? What? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. What it's going to do? It's going to create this line, as you can see, where each line will correspond, or each dot is going to correspond to the mean value of the capacity in the arenas in each division, joined with lines. It's going to be, each dot is united by the different lines. With this single cut, we can extract valuable information from our data and present it to other ones. That's, at the end, one of the goals in data science, of course, to report to somebody or to report to ourselves and to extract information or extract certain valuable insights. And this is how you easily can use pandas for data manipulation with this easy tutorial. I hope you like it and see you soon in the next episode talking about more about data manipulation with Python.